Hey guys, I'm really excited to introduce you to the Propella 9S Pro. This is a really cool bike. I've always been a fan of lightweight bikes and really cool looking kind of customized models. We're here with the founder of the company. This is Ben, and gosh, I reviewed the very first model that you launched this on Indiegogo. When was that, Ben?
Correct. That was 2016.
Wow.
We launched it a while ago, yeah.
It's quite a while back. And I think when you started the company in 2015 and like created the first like prototypes and stuff, we've come a long way. Now, what are the models you carry now?
Currently we have the Mini, the SS or single speed, and the 7S, 7-speed.
7-speed, okay. And then this one is the 9-speed. And it's called the Pro. So what does the Pro mean?
So the Pro is, we wanted to take our most popular model, which is the 7S, and add more value, capability, and power to it with keeping the core elements of Propella the same, which is lightweight, affordable. So with just about 4 extra pounds, we're able to add more battery capacity, more motor power, hydraulic brakes, and just more stuff.
Well, thank you for bringing it all the way here. You know, I've got to say, in addition to being lightweight, relatively affordable, we are up to like $16.99 with this one. It still looks a lot more like just a regular bike, and I've noticed there are a lot of comfort improvements here. So instead of the 700C, sort of like the 29 inch wheels, we've gone to 27.5 here, and then we've got these tires that are a little bit wider, so 27.5 by 2.0 inches, 40 to 65 psi. So pretty good psi spread, a little bit more tread here, so you can maybe take some just a little detours on packed earth if you need to, but still pretty, you know, closer to that road bike kind of like efficiency if you take the tire pressure up, and then just the tread pattern that we've got here. Look at the handlebar. This is sort of a little bit of a riser bar rather than a flat bar or drop bar on like a traditional road bike. So even though this is still just a completely rigid frame, which by the way, it only comes in the high step. This is a 19 inch, only one color, this matte black with the white accents and the nice little blue highlights. I love that. There's still a little bit of adjustability. You got the 27.2 millimeter seat post, pretty standard, fairly comfortable saddle actually, considering that it's sort of the highlights and fun colors. Rigid fork, aluminum alloy, and that's the trade-off, right? So you get efficiency, we get lightweight. This is about 41.5 pounds, as you see here, without any accessories. Tons of options though for putting accessories on the bike, whether it's fenders or racks, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. The big highlights for me are the higher capacity, higher powered battery pack, the higher power motor. So this is a 350 watt, nominally rated up to 500 watt peak, 45 Newton meters. This is a Vinca. It's a planetary geared hub motor. So you can see it's fairly compact. I love that he got a black one, the black spokes, the black rims, everything on this bike is blacked out, very nice. And that pairs with the 36 volt, 10 amp hour, 360 watt hour battery pack. So you're just getting a little bit more power with this bike, and that's nice. You know, you're riding around town, maybe you're climbing some hills. I would say more range, but some of that range is going to be offset if you're really putting that motor to the test. We've got a bunch of different assist levels that I'll go into later. But the other thing is, as you add weight, as you add power to an electric bike, brakes. Okay, so we've upgraded to these awesome hydraulic disc brakes from Logan. Hydraulic is nice because you got adjustable reach levers, and then it's easier to actuate these. You're not pulling a cable through this housing, and the cable's longer for the rear brake. And so with hydraulic, they just brake more consistently, and I really appreciate that. Both of these have motor inhibitors as well, so it's really going above and beyond, especially because this is a class 1 pedal assist only. It doesn't have a throttle or anything. So I think that's great, and part of that is because this is a cadence sensing electric bike. 12 magnet sealed low profile sensor right here. Gotta love that. Some of the more affordable bikes or just older bikes, they have like exposed magnets, and sometimes it can get kicked and bumped around. To me, this is really clean, and it just fits that nice professional aesthetic of the bike. Here are the rotors, 160 millimeter front and rear. We got dual piston calipers, as you might expect. I think this is fine for kind of an urban city bike. 160 hydraulic, good stuff. And we can actually see the hub back here Up front, we've got standard 100mm hub spacing with a 12mm thru-axle for extra strength and rigidity. That's nice. That's something I don't see a lot, especially on more affordable bikes and just kind of a city-oriented product like this. 142mm hub spacing in the rear with a 12mm threaded slotted axle. It slides up into the aluminum alloy frame. And then we got a little torque washer there to keep it from chewing into the frame for a 350-watt nominally rated motor. This is a pretty good setup, pretty standard. And you can see the motor cable on this side. This is what I would be careful with. Like, you don't want the bike ever to tip, but ideally, the sensitive stuff is on the right-hand side of the bike. You can see the derailleur down here, the derailleur cable and the motor cable. They don't really collide very much. I feel like there's enough spacing here. There's a quick disconnect for if you do get a flat tire, you need to do some wheel service. You're gonna need some tools and stuff. And the front is also, it's not a quick release. None of this is. I think that was probably chosen purposefully to keep this a little bit more durable and safe if you're in a city environment, so people aren't just messing with your stuff when you're at the bike rack. But yeah, keep an eye on that motor cable. You don't want to get that snagged or something as you're riding or just kicked or anything. This will come with a Shimano Altus derailleur, and the gear spread's decent. It's 11 to 32 teeth, 9 speeds. So you just have small little jumps between those 9 speeds. You can find a really comfortable pedal cadence with a bike like this. Thinking back to like the 7S, you just have used 7 steps. So having more steps means you can be more comfortable as you're riding. And since this is the Class 1, more efficient, lightweight type of electric bike, I think that's great because you can actually ride this. It feels very comfortable and satisfying, even without motor power. And to me, that's nice. It's more like a bicycle in that sense than like a scooter. Coming back to the geometry for a minute here, you can see the stem, the riser bar, which is nice, and it gives you that comfortable body position, just a little bit more comfortable. But they've also added like 4 10mm spacers and a 20mm tapered spacer at the bottom. So we're lifting the whole handlebar, which just means your body is a little bit more upright, and it takes some of that tension off of your neck, your shoulders that you'd see on like a more traditional road bike. Love that they've got ergonomic grips and that these are locking, so they're not going to slip around. It's a nice part. If you are someone who wants this even more relaxed, you can get a shorter stem. This is 31.8mm, very standard clamp diameter, and you could get one that's like a little bit shorter and a little bit steeper, or even an adjustable angle stem. But for what it is, it's like I kind of like and appreciate that they're going more relaxed, because you know, with an e-bike you tend to ride more and go farther, especially if you replace your car. And back to the saddle, I like this single bolt clamp here on the seat post, and yeah, I'm just kind of taking it in. 170mm crank arms, Lasco, square tapered spindle, just kind of standard there. These Neko pedals, they get the job done. They're lightweight. I'm not a huge fan of the cages because they just aren't as big as like some of the mountain bike pedals I like. I swap them out frequently for like Welgos, but this is a name brand part. It's got the reflectors on it and stuff. The only concern is like if the bike tips over a lot, this can kind of get sharp and kind of scratched up or even bent in a little bit. So I flipped the bike around and I wanted to give you a close-up of the chainring. This is pretty standard, although it's aluminum alloy, so it's a little bit lighter weight, and this is a 42 tooth. And in the final version, we are looking at like sort of final pre-production here. I'm getting a look at it right before it launches, thanks to Ben. And that one's gonna have a plastic guard on it. That's gonna help protect your pant legs. I am out here today with pants that could get greasy and kind of snagged on this over time. So it's nice to hear that they're doing that. And then it's gonna keep the chain from dropping off, at least outside. You could still have a chain drop inwards, but again, with a bike like this, you're probably riding mostly around town, and it's not going to be like a whole lot of off-road bumpy use. So I'm about to jump into the display here, and again, I want to compliment a bike like this that's lightweight, something that people could afford, whether you're like a student or maybe you're a commuter. It does cost a little extra to add those accessories, whether it's lights, fenders, rack, and because this is a direct-to-consumer e-bike, you have to pay a little bit for shipping. So I think it's $50 in the contiguous US, or $100 if you're up in Canada. And just kind of keep that in mind. There's a box, there's some doing, but at least it's light. I've ordered other e-bikes in the mail, you know, and there's this huge box and it can be so heavy. This one is nice because it's just so, it's just light, you know, and especially if you take the battery off, it's almost just like a regular bicycle. The steps to get this out of the box and going is really to put the front wheel on, put the saddle on, and then the handlebar, because that's going to be off and kind of next to the frame so they can get it in one of those skinny boxes. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort. Another thing that I like to do is maybe take the bike to a local bicycle shop and just, you know, have them like lube the chain and maybe just do a little quick tune-up. I like that most of the Shimano derailleurs have this little barrel adjuster so you can twist to the left or to the right and do some fine-tuning without even requiring tools. So you're really just going to need some like hex wrenches and stuff. Hey guys, so we got the battery off the bike and the charger and some other accessories here. So this is the Pro battery here. It weighs about 4.5 pounds, 36 volts, 10 amp hours, 360 watt hours. So higher capacity than the older one, 36 volts, 7 amp hours for kind of 252 watt hours, 3.3 pounds on that. So, you know, you add a pound, it is physically a little bit larger, but still very sleek when you see it on the bike. Great weight position, low and center on the frame. And I love the charger. This thing is 3 amps. So even though we have a higher capacity battery with the 21700 cells versus the 18650s, it still charges in 2.5, 3 hours, you know, if you're all the way down. To me, it's neat to see such a custom and beautiful battery like this with the matching blue accents and stuff on the frame. This is the optional Axiom rack. I like this thing. It's got pannier blockers on the side, bungee loops at the bottom, pretty high weight capacity, and then a mounting point at the back for if you get some of their Saigo lights or other accessories. They got fenders, plastic with rubber mud flaps that look really good. They've also got a suspension seat post. I think that's the Connect from Cirrus Cycles, really high performance option, and then a little saddle kind of bag that goes on the back if you want for some of your accessories, extra tire tubes, things like that. And then just looking at the bike, the mounting points and everything, I really appreciate that for being able to set the rack up and have the strength and really support it properly. So we're on the left side of the bike here, and I love that the kickstand is clear, so you're not going to get pedal lock if you're walking out of the tight space, for example, the side of your garage. Adjustable length on that seems to be working really well. And then you can see the locking cylinder and the key for the battery. That is fairly close to that crank arm, so I'd make sure that this is back and out of the way. And we're going to put the battery on it. You start with the top, so kind of fits down snugly like that, and then you can take the key out. The charging port is at the top, so you can plug it in, and that's the nice thing. If you left this on the bike, given how light it is, if you live upstairs, you can easily carry this up the stairs, bring it into your house, keep this in a cool, dry location. Extreme heat is hard on lithium-ion cells, and the extreme cold just kind of temporarily stunts your range. But yeah, you know, you don't have to bend way down like the key. You can just plug it right in at the top here with that fast charger, or if you want, you can take it off and, you know, maybe you aren't riding the bike for a while, you have to park it outside. Pretty good setup. And then down here at the bottom, we do have bottle cage bosses. It's a pretty far distance to reach if you actually had a water bottle, but that could be used for like a folding lock or something. And then they have this optional bottle cage that's like magnetic with a really cool bottle, and it can strap onto the seat tube right here. So that's a good option. Other people might use like a frame bag, those triangular things, or maybe a cup holder up here, or you get that Axiom rack and you can have a little holster with a bottle back there. So this is the display panel. It's color, and it's a nice size, 2.25 inches. I'm pressing the power button here. It boots up pretty quickly, and hopefully you can see this. To me, it's fairly legible, and we got like blue and gray and white. It really ties into the bike, so to me that was a little delighter. We've got watts in kind of like your power output from the motor. Speed, it's in miles per hour, but I'll show you how to change that to metric if you want. And then we've got a battery infographic. It's just 5 bars, so each bar is like kind of a 20% step. It's not quite as precise as a percentage readout. This doesn't have like a range calculator or anything, but that's kind of what you expect for a cadence sensor, just sort of a standard bike. We got odometer down here. Assist levels, we're in 1 right now. Take it down to 0 and just ride this like a regular bike. But again, because it doesn't have lights or a USB port or anything like that, it's just going to be like a bicycle in that case. You might as well turn the display off unless you're racing someone, you want to see a top speed or something. And then we got trip distance over here. And I think if we press the power button, we change to max speed from odometer, average speed, time, and then back to odometer. So it circles around. Hold minus and we get walk mode going on, which is nice. A little bit less useful on a bike that's just so light and efficient like this, but it still has it. And there's a little readout here, so there's a little foot, which is nice. And then plus has doubles as like a headlight on off, but again, no lights. So what you're really doing is just turning off or kind of turning down the brightness on the display. For someone who's riding at night, maybe, you know, you commute in the morning, you come home, it's the evening and it's dark. That's great because you're not going to ruin your night vision with like this big flashlight thing in your face. The display is not removable. It does swivel a little bit if you don't over tighten it, but that's kind of it. They're really, you know, all the buttons, they're right there. They're fairly easy to reach. It's just one thing. And this is what the wire wraps look like and everything. It's, you know, it's clean. Again, for me, bikes like this they just feel approachable. It doesn't feel too overwhelming. And then it's about the ride experience. So over here, you can see this optical window for the trigger shifters. We've got a multi-shift low, so you can go tick, 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 and go to like a really low gear if you're approaching a hill or you're just getting started. The high lever for going faster or making it harder to pedal, it's a one-way shifter, okay? So for me, that's a little bit of a complaint. I like to use my thumb for both, and that way I can have my fingers up on the brake levers. This one, you have to take off your finger in order to shift up. Not the end of the world, but it is a little bit of a trade-off there too. As we're getting started here, I want to mention there's some more clearance up on the fork and the seat stay. So you could actually add some different tires to this if you want, and maybe get some gravel tires or something, and the bike could maybe be kind of like a multi-sport use. Again, it's a rigid frame with a rigid fork, but with higher volume and a little bit of traction, you could take the trail on. So I'm up in the highest level of assist. I like to do that so you can hear the motor and just get a sense for the power and speed. Very smooth and quiet. And with the wider tires, you know, it's tracking nicely. I'm getting to ride with no hands, no problem. I'm gonna shift some gears here. There we go. And again, cadence sensor, so I don't really even have to push. As long as I'm moving those cranks, it's gonna activate the motor. I wanted to show you that motor in action because it's really smooth and quiet. They say that this can get like 25 to 45 miles of range, and you know, it really depends on how much you're pedaling and what assist level you're using, how much you weigh, how full the tires are, stuff like that. I still really appreciate the weight distribution. I noticed that there are some cables running along the base of the top tube, so not everything is internally routed, but a lot of them are. A little bit of jitter with that kickstand as I went off the curb, but I'm liking the 9 speeds. Those small increments as you go from one pedal cadence to another feels very comfortable. No problem. I mean, I've got good speed going into this hill. I'm just going to ease off for a minute and see how it does. Yep. No problem. The brakes are feeling really nice. I'm a fan of hydraulic brakes, so yeah, that's good. And then on a city bike, these are still gonna stay a little bit cleaner compared to like rim brakes or something. So they're raised up off the ground. Coming back to that idea of maybe putting on gravel tires or something. There we go. So I moved the bike into the shade because I wanted you to see the display with the backlighting showing up more. It's pretty nice. Again, I could read that even in the sunlight. I hope you can too. There is a settings menu. So if we hold plus and minus, we've got basic settings. We just press the power button. Trip reset, we can go from imperial to metric, wheel size, speed limit. So that's kind of cool. I mean, I think you can take it down and maybe get a little bit better range or possibly take it up. Looks like 25 miles per hour is the top rating. I'm not sure if it can actually go that fast. I'm trying to follow the rules here. But it's neat that they give you that. And then state of charge view, it says percent, which for me, it didn't actually look like a percentage. It looked more like the battery infographic. So let's go back and see that state of charge. See, it still just looks like a battery infographic. Maybe I'm missing something, but I'm always trying to explore these things. Advanced settings, so we can change the number of assists from 1 to 5, 0 to 7, 0 to 5, 0 to 9, so you can have like finer steps, more of them, and kind of change the power output level, so it's like a gentler slope. There we go. Current limit. Huh, interesting. Assist number, speed sensor, slow start. I did notice that this ramped up really smoothly, and then password. Okay guys, so I asked Ben to hold the camera for a second here. I'm gonna do some ride-bys for that third person footage. I could probably raise the saddle a little bit to get better leg extension, but you know, it's doing okay. I'm about 5'9" and weigh about 135 pounds for reference. There we go. Very nice. Yeah, it's just super tight, fast. Brakes are really tight. Kind of do that track stand thing at the stoplight if you want to. Just the bike feels really just like a regular bike, you know? I think that was the goal, and yeah, they really accomplished it. Lifting from the center, really even weight distribution. It's good stuff. Guys, that is the Propella 9S Pro. It's cool to see this company just continue to refine their products. I've actually, a friend of mine covered the 7-speed. It wasn't called the 7S yet. Got a bunch of reviews on the website. Haven't covered the Mini yet. Hope to do that at some point. But yeah, for what it's worth, the 9S Pro was a lot of fun today. I've measured all the details on this bike by hand, and I've got a cool comparison tool back at ElectricBikeReview.com, so you can, you know, look at some other bikes and maybe in this price range or this build type, and check out the forums too. Talk to people about the different accessories and options for stuff like this. I love ya. I hope you have fun out there. Ride safe. We'll see you next time.